Electronic music means all sorts of things. The genre or the core of it sort of cross-pollinates. I can really bend those perceptions as I please.
I got drawn into electronic music, and I think it's only natural when you become so obsessed with something that you really just want to sort of bathe yourself in it.
For me, it's just so vibrant, and electronic music just has this ability to show so many different emotional landscapes.
I know it's a cliche, but it was literally the best time of my life, you know? The environment of Canberra, I don't know what it is, maybe the calmness of it, maybe the lack of distractions. We grow really good talent here.
I think Canberra had a really good name for itself as we knew how to party.
You know, it's passionate people that drive a scene. So Canberra was just really full of passionate, driven people, and that's what made it pop.
I first started DJing in the, let's say, late 80s, and seeing the evolution of Canberra's dance music culture was really exciting.
Basically, the whole Canberra scene kind of just exploded. Like within months, you know, there was 500 people dancing at these warehouse parties. It was happening, and nothing was going to stop it.
Canberra was pretty exciting then. You know, lots of different bunches of people, each doing their own thing, each sort of trying to, like, you know, put out their own, like, version of the culture.
Canberra's always had a really strong kind of dance music culture, DJ culture as well. Guys like LD Glove and Goldfinger, they were the kind of standard bearers when I was a kid. Roger Ramjet, who gave me one of my first ever gigs.
Probably around 94, 95 was kind of like the peak of the rave scene.
It's a tight-knit community, especially in Canberra. It's not like Sydney where there's like 6 raves on a night. There was one thing once every couple of months.
So I remember having to dial the number on the phone, and you get this dodgy, scratchy message that you had to listen to and interpret.
They would give you instructions. It was all very mysterious.
It adds a little suspense, and you know, it adds an excitement to the parties. Like, I don't know where this will be. Maybe it'll be in a warehouse. Maybe it'll be in a car park. Maybe it'll be in the bush.
It was obviously about the DJs and the music and the party itself, but there was a really nice, comfortable vibe and a real friendliness.
As these kind of DIY parties and raves were dying down or getting fewer and fewer, and more things were happening in the clubs, we really were looking for a club that was not so polished.
You know, there was a number of venues that were really the kind of focal points.
Going to Heaven Nightclub, I think, was this almost like, I suppose, a rite of passage for a certain generation of people. And, you know, Sylvie Stern, who used to manage Heaven, I think, you know, really brought like this sort of, I guess, a community of people together. I don't know if you want to call them miscreants and outcasts and stuff, but we kind of were.
Yeah, Sylvie was a real, she was just like the rock. You know, there was none of this kind of, I wonder what I can do this weekend. It was just like, we're going to Heaven.
If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gotten a leg up, and I wouldn't have gotten half of the gigs that I got and the experiences that I had. And I think a lot of people would say the same thing.
Culturally speaking, it was different. It wasn't like the kind of place that like everyone would be attracted to going to. It's more people who are sort of, I guess, living a little bit on the outside or something.
She basically gave us carte blanche to kind of do what we wanted inside the club, and we did. We just went crazy.
There was so many different types of people all coming together in this one space to enjoy the same thing.
Roger Ramjet kind of opened up this shop called the Underground Music Movement that Chris was involved in as well. They were partners, you know, where the mixtapes were being sold. There were records on the shelves. There were loads of rave clothing in there. There was a pool table. It was kind of like a little community place for the kids to go and hang out.
I played as a rave DJ for years and years and years at, you know, places like the Asylum, which was incredible. We actually had the Prodigy headline there in a venue that held 150 people.
You know, there were people queuing up down the street to get in.
Yo, I used to check out lyrics upon the format, filled with skill with technique.
It was absolutely rammed, and people were just frothing for the Prodigy, man. They were just frothing. And that's a testament to Roger, who had basically started this promotions company and was bringing everyone that was playing in Sydney or in Brisbane or Melbourne, and he was bringing them to Canberra. Whereas before they may have passed through, you know. A lot of people will probably say that was one of the best gigs in Canberra ever.
Going out was about sort of finding something new, and that was a big thing about it.
To be 18 and going out is a feeling that I would love to have back again.
It was this like sort of isolating experience at first, and then I started going out and I started meeting different people.
And I think that's what I love about it. People are just there to dance with their friends and listen to the music.
Just for a little while, you didn't think about anything else other than being completely wholly present in that moment.
I guess I'm trying to create an environment where people feel open to experiencing something unexpected.
It's really cool when you find something that surprises you.
Definitely when Heaven closed, there was a real gap. All of a sudden, this heart of the scene was gone.
So Toast sort of picked up the torch of, like, say, Gypsy Bar and Heaven closed at roughly the same time. Toast sort of picked up the people on the outside or whatever.
At the time as well, Trinity Bar sort of was starting to put DJs on as well, and so I played there quite a bit.
There were a lot of clubs. It might be like hard to fathom for people listening to this today, but just so many clubs.
What was really good about it was there was always something on. There was always somewhere to go.
So I felt like I was reaping the rewards of like what was already a really well-established underground scene.
Someone like me who's like a bit of a culture sponge, yeah, I really adored it because I could go out really most nights and see something interesting.
Not long after that, like the whole house music kind of thing kind of exploded.
There were so many different places in the city, in Kingston, in Monica. Foreshore had just started, Warehouse had just started. You know, these big music festivals, all focusing on electronic music. I don't know if I've felt that way since about opportunity here. It was incredible.
Guest DJs playing at Lot 33, even Red Room in Garuma Place was a really good spot.
You know, it was a very particular space and time where like venues and, you know, people coming to events would be kind of conducive to it.
There's everyone. There's, you know, old ravers that you remember from back in the day. There's a bunch of you know, fresh 19-year-old kids who were just experiencing clubbing for the first time. Now, there were people I knew who'd been seeing me DJ since the under-18s nights where I first started, who were still there at Academy, like almost every night.
What I really like playing in a place like Knightsbridge is, it's like I saw people grow up. I played there for like over 10 years. As wanky as it sounds, like soundtracking a part of people's lives.
I don't think Canberra has a sound.
It was more like an energy as opposed to a sound.
I think that's one of the cool things about this city is that it's really diverse. The artists that end up really succeeding, they're all so different.
To me, the Canberra sound is like Sia, Ahmad, Shoaib Ahmad, and that really distorted kind of guitar-y synth sound with drums and slightly more ethereal soundscapes.
The intimacy of Canberra's dance music scene is definitely something that sets it apart.
You get to book all of these people who are absolutely amazing at what they do. You get to watch them in this really intimate environment that you would never be able to do in another city.
Sometimes unspoken side of the scene is how, and I think it's really unique to Canberra. I don't know about other smaller towns or smaller cities, but the Canberra Kick On is like a classic.
So yeah, we would go out and then you'd go to somebody's house and hang out.
It's a classic thing in Canberra. You don't experience it too much in Sydney. It's always in a house that looked a bit like this, you know what I mean? Like that was another big part of what made the Canberra scene so cool. May have even started with a few house parties and then it like expands.
Then we defined a thing called a house festival. A house festival is a minimum of 400 people, 3 stages. Definitely failed a couple of courses at uni due to Univibes. In fact, I think it's pretty fair to say the first 6 years, every director failed quite a few courses.
I look back and the climate of what we could do was really interesting. One, because we had the university bank account.
Univibes taught me a lot through experience. You just got to throw yourself in and make a million mistakes.
We didn't really have that many venues, so we tried to get really creative in where we were doing stuff.
I do remember going to the police at about 8 or 9 o'clock one night and said, "You've got to shut this down. This is completely out of control."
Some of the more exciting sounds that you can get out of a synthesizer, some of the more interesting drum patterns you can get out of a drum machine, they scare people. What the hell is this sound? I don't know, I found that alluring.
I've never experienced something like that in a venue before, just sweat condensation dripping off the ceiling.
It was like, who are these people? What is this music? Where do they come from and where do they go at the end of it? Because I've never seen anything like this.
It was like swimming in a sea of bass.
The feeling you get when it's really loud, you can just, you can feel it in your bones.
The buzz was like, I mean, I get hairs standing up on my arms now just thinking about it.
Before Doofs really took over in Australia, people were doing bush parties here in Canberra.
We lived in a special time back then and we definitely made the most of it.
Where else could you get an Uber to the Doof and back?
Ken, Catgirl, was just so good at bringing people together. He had this dream of building something called Dragon Dreaming.
If you were to speak to some of these people who run these really big doofs, like Dragon Dreaming, they have their roots in Canberra and they've spread their wings and done incredible things.
I guess I felt like we could do something different.
How hard can it be to put on a 3-day event? Yeah, we were very wrong about that.
The weather was not good to us in any event. The very first one we did, and it got to -6. I think in a lot of ways they were the best ones.
The underground, less than legal sort of party scene, it sort of takes us back to our roots of dance music where, you know, we can have these parties and they can be programmed without having to appeal to the mass.
Iconic the Doof, Sunburn, who we love, they throw massive bush doofs. When I finally kind of met some people, it was a really exciting time and a lot of growth happened then with my own musical tastes.
If I was going to distill it down to a word, it would be, I'd say freedom. There's
kind of a magic in it that it's just really different to clubbing and being in a smaller combined space that you go to every week.
We've gone bush.
None of us got paid until 2 years ago. You know, 11 years of running Dragon Dreaming for free. Walking through the festival and you get that nod. It's all about the nod. You did it for the nod. And it's so true. Someone comes up to you and it's like, they've had the most amazing weekend. It's like, payday.
They created this community out of the dirt that I think was always there in one form or another, but they just collected it all together.
The original conception of Skyland was a very grassroots idea between myself and a couple of close friends. I think it just felt real. It was a pure love for the music and love for networking and community.
Having that time and space over that many days gives you a lot of freedom to experiment and try and break the rules.
It was like watching your baby grow and then outgrow you and leave home.
It came out of a desperate need for it. You know, we weren't interested in clout, we're not interested in elevating ourselves as DJs. It was literally just a way for us to put on parties, draw in artists that we wanted to hear and we wanted to share with other Canberrans.
Me and Mia were really, really lucky because we landed in the hands of Megan Bones.
Learning from Megan was very special. She was really just like an icon, especially to us young aspiring DJs. It was so cool for her to teach us.
Hey DJ, do you play club music?
It was like the perfect introduction for all of that.
I love club music.
I think she was pretty fed up with the landscape. It was really white and all men.
There wasn't a lot of femme representation in dance music, and I think that if you look around now and you look at who's throwing parties and who's really succeeding in this industry, it's a lot of women.
There's too many guys in electronic music and not enough female influence on the direction of events and the curation of those events. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work to do, I think.
You could just see how eager Megan was to get some diversity going.
There's venues that we should really thank for their work on this stuff, you know, like Sideway springs to mind immediately at being like a really big sort of player in making sure that inclusivity and gender diversity and, you know, not putting up with dickheads becomes core.
In my life, electronic music has come from the absolute fringes to nearly mainstream centre. So there's already in society this absolute demand for electronic music, and the industry hopefully will mature and connect a bit more in Canberra over time. And then I think you'll see the fruits of that labour come together, and you'll see really big audiences coming to regular large-scale electronic things, a bit like Digi and Spilt Milk. And hopefully we get the flourishing of the underground stuff around that.
You used to be holding on with me. Now I know it's true.
One thing I've noticed that over the years is like the special sauce in Canberra's electronic music scene is that it's so small that there is still a really strong sense of community.
And I think that that's what helped make the scene so strong, is that we weren't just kind of like copying what was going on in the UK. We weren't just copying what was going on in Sydney and Melbourne. We created something on our own, and we had the talent to kind of back it up.
DJs and are there to sort of hold it down, you know, to be that avant-garde, that, you know, scouting what the territory is, and that's the beauty of DJing.
People are getting by, and there's a history in Canberra where it's always happened. You can't shut down the underground. It's going to keep pushing anyway.
Surrounding me.